Hey y'all, welcome to Girl Meets Green. My name is Norma, your host of Love is Blind, Season 5, Episodes 8 and 9. First of all, I'm so disappointed. It was not the weddings. I thought it was the weddings. I thought 10 was going to be the reunion. I don't know why I thought that, but it wasn't. Anywho, we're jumping in because we got some things to talk about. This season needs to go in the trash at this point. Not really, because I think this is, to me, this is the best season yet in terms of okay, so this is season 5, and I feel like had it gone the traditional route, I probably would have found it boring because I was like, it's the same process. We're watching them talk in the pods, they get engaged, they meet for a honeymoon, they live in an apartment together, they have some sort of conflict right before the wedding, and then the wedding. Same routine. This season has been wild, not only on screen, but bro, this cast is like, what are NDAs? We don't care. I don't know if the NDAs were looser this season. Apparently there's a picture out there of Izzy with a woman. It's a side profile, and someone on TikTok, investigative, bro, we are detectives out here in social media, deciphered that it's Micah. I don't know how accurate that is, right? But that was a TikTok. They went to one to see what the person was wearing to match it to, I don't know. Apparently it's Micah. That's what's being said. That would be crazy, but you know what? It kind of makes sense. Similar personalities there, similar vibes there, so I could see it. There was also a TikTok out there of Aaliyah with a possible new boo. I don't know, baby. I don't know. So Aaliyah was on Hanging with the Hamiltons talking to Cameron. Go watch it if you haven't. She gives a lot of insight there. So let's talk about that. She does have a new boo, but I mean, we in her business, okay? We in her business. Don't do that, is what I'm saying. Now, I hope she's happy. I hope that person is treating her well, okay? Because what that girl went through on that show, baby, we're gonna pray for you. Speaking of, in the interview, few points I just want to put out there because personally I think they match my thoughts of the Uche, Lydia, Aaliyah triangular situation, the Uche's treatment of Aaliyah, etc. Okay, basically she said they tried for about a month after, but she was hearing from cast that he was speaking negatively about her, and they were like, hey, you don't deserve this, I want you to know this, you deserve better, etc. She kind of ended it because of that, and I mean that just honestly solidifies my opinion of him, solidifies that we were all correct in her needing to have just let him go when she left the experiment. But she says she learned a lot from that experience. She also, because she's like, Lydia said a lot of things that clarified her and Uche's relationship for her, Lydia and Uche's relationship for her. She was like, things that I'm not going to share because that's her thing to share. Needless to say, in my opinion, again, go watch it so you get more clarity and more of an idea than what I'm saying, because I'm trying to just kind of chunk it all up. It was like a 50-ish minute interview, I think. But based on her watching her speak on this, I feel like I was right. I feel like my feelings, my instincts were pretty on point. Just kidding. But yeah, I feel like my thoughts on Lydia and Uche, the Lydia and Uche situation were fairly accurate to what happened, which was he played with her. He played with her. And I don't want to say he made her crazy, because we are all in control. Personally, I would just leave. If I found out you were cheating, if I found out whatever, I would leave. I'm not coming back. That's just my opinion on the matter. But some people, it doesn't go that route. And while we can't acknowledge the things that make her crazy she shouldn't have done, we still do have to acknowledge the role he played in putting her in that mental state or in that state of mind. We are all of the opinion, if you are not in a relationship, it's not cheating. However, if you know that you and this person are at a certain level, regardless of titles, to me it's cheating. To me it's sketchy. If you don't want to call it cheating, to me it's messed up, and you shouldn't do it. You should make that person aware. I'm seeing other people. I just want you to make sure you understand, because to mess with someone's head like that, you guys, cheating is traumatic. Do you know what that does to a person? The person that gets cheated on. So regardless of whether you guys are not in a relationship, so it's not cheating. If it feels like that to that person, think of the trauma you're causing them because you couldn't sit down with them and say, just so you know, I'm seeing other people. I want to make sure we understand that this is not exclusive right now. Whatever it is, to get them in a different mind frame. We jump back into Uche talking to Milton. Lydia comes in and is like, Milton, no. Milton, no. Milton, no. Which she was upset, so it's okay. We're gonna give her that. I don't think she was trying to be like, mommy, get over here, child. But she was upset. I think she just didn't want him to talk to Uche. I think she got scared. I think she realized Uche's narrative, and so when he pulled Milton to talk, she's like, he's gonna get in his ear. Like, he's gonna make him believe these things he's saying. And I feel, or I know, that they are not true. And so she was like, no, do not listen to him, you know? And I think because in the pod, his reaction was very much like, I really need to think about this. She thought that, like, he would get... Oh, what the hell? She thought he would, like, go back into that mind frame. So I think that's where that came from. I will say, I was kind of like, well, you made him let you talk. So, like, you kind of got to let him talk. So Milton goes to comfort Lydia. Now, while they're away and he's doing his comforting thing, Uche comes to the group, right? He's like, I'm going to get these people on my side. So when he comes back in, everybody's like, Milton, he's right. And it did not go to plan for Uche. He comes to the group to talk, right? We've got Miriam, Renee, Stacy, Izzy, I believe. Now, we're gonna talk, because everybody's talking about this, and I have to agree, baby. I have to agree. I'm sorry. He goes to talk to the group. He's like, yeah, you know, and she's like in her ear, whoop-de-whoop-de-whoop, and Stacey's like, that's not how it happened, like, on our side of the pods. It's not. He's like, yeah, but did, you know, like, he's still, and, like, what did you think? Okay, if his intention was to come up in here and make sure everyone knew the truth or whatever he was trying to do, if you're saying, like, oh, this is what this person did while over there, and then the entire group that was over there is like, no, that's not what happened. Wouldn't you stop talking and be like, wait, so what happened? Or you'd be like, oh, and just kind of be quiet to listen to what they have to say? No. He's like, no, but still, ooh. Anyways, so then Stacy, Miriam, and Renee, sorry guys, I'm sick. Stacy, Miriam, and Renee are like, yeah, that's not what happened. And so, you know, in a group setting, everybody's talking, everybody's trying to get their point across. So it wasn't super loud, but, like, all three girls were like, no, that's not what happened, trying to get their point across of why that's not what happened. Stacy at one point is, like, standing on one foot, like, she was over there crying and she brought her to us, and then, you know, like, she's up, leaning towards him, not in his face, but, like, in his face, in the sense of, like, you know, when you're like, no, this is what happened, like, da-da-da-da. So that's what she was doing. And they're all talking, right? Her, Miriam, Renee, they're all like, no, that's not what happened. Like, listen, and Miriam's like, no. Like, she was a friend to her. Like, that's not what this was. And he goes, Miriam. He starts telling Miriam to shush, gets into this whole thing with Miriam. And as everyone's been saying, I'm sorry, it gotta be a race thing. It really do. Because honestly, she was like the mild of them. She wasn't screaming at him. She wasn't like, you. She literally was talking just like the rest of them. And then you had Stacy, who was up and standing and in his face. He have nothing to say to Stacy, and they were all of the same opinion. It wasn't like Stacy was agreeing with him, and so that's why he didn't say. No, he just, I can't help but notice that the woman he chose to go at was the black woman. We gonna leave that there. Anywho, yeah. So Miriam, he's like, oh, and she's like, oh, you're not going to tell me to be quiet. And she reads him to freaking filth. And yes, everyone's saying, like, he read her too. I don't think he read her. I think all he did was point out, like, how awkward, like, what she was saying in the pods was, or how weird it was. If you haven't already, she did come out with a video. She didn't really address it, but, like, she was like, oh, this is my product. She essentially addressed that, like, at that time, she was still coming up with her product. So I think that's where the weirdness came from. And then with moving, maybe it was just she couldn't get her wording right. I don't know. I'm not judging her for that. But that's why people are saying he read her, because he was making fun of, like, where do you live? Do you live in Houston? Do you live in Saudi Arabia? Do you have a job? Do you not have a job? Do you have a boyfriend? Like, he was acting like a 6-year-old. That's what we're calling a read? Is that he, like, mocked her like you would when you were 9? Okay, I guess. Anyways, she freaking read him to filth. For the filth he is. I like that she told him, like, you're not gonna tear me down like you do these other women. Like, you ain't gonna come out here thinking you gonna get in my feelings, sir. And he just, like, walks away. He's like, Stacy or anyone else who wants to talk about it, I'll be over there. No one cares, okay? No one cares. And Jesse Woo's, as he sashayed away, killed me, because he did kind of sashay away a little bit, okay? Sashay away. He really did, just a little bit. Anyways, that's that situation. Miriam was going off on him because she's like, this man has lost his ever-loving mind. But now, interestingly enough, some people felt some type of way about them coming for Uche. Personally, I'm like, yo, this is confirmation for all of us who feel negatively about him. You want to know why? Want to know why? because all these people have met in real life. He was in the pods with the men. Him and the women end up having a lot of interactions throughout. The cast hangs out. Oh, I forgot to mention Izzy's podcast with Nick Viall, but he also mentions there were times where they hung out. So I'm sorry, when you have a cast who's disagreeing with you, I'm looking at you sideways. We move on to Milton and Uche talking again. Milton comes, tells the girls to take care of Lydia, and goes to talk to Uche. Baby, if Milton could have looked any less interested in what Uche had to say, was cracking me up. Uche said, I don't want to show you these receipts, but I'm going to show you these receipts. Like, sir, something wrong with you, for real, something wrong with you. He said, I believe it. He said, oh, you don't want to, I don't want to, you know, these aren't the words they were saying, but this is what the conversation was giving, you know, like, I'm not interested in seeing your receipts. I believe you. Go on. Finish what you got to say so I can go. That's what Milton was giving. And then the man finishes and Milton's like, look, what do you say? This ain't geometry, this multi-dimensional calculus or whatever he said. Maybe I'm trying to remember the word. But yeah, he said, you X, I'm Y, she's Z. No, she's X, I'm Y, you're Z, whatever. Like, we on different planes. I'm sorry. He had me rolling with this. But yeah, he basically is like, everyone has their perception of the situations, which is a perfect thing to say about all of this. Like, Milton dropping knowledge, and he's the youngest of the group. I just hit myself in the face. But yeah, he's dropping knowledge because at the end, that's what this all comes to. We all have our own perceptions. And I like that he didn't have to be all like, and that's my girl, don't talk about my girl, you know, to defend her. It was just like, you can have your opinion, she can have hers. Can I go now? Because Uche's like, oh, what do you say? Don't you think that someone's past dictates who they are now, or dictates, or whatever he said, whatever bull he was spitting? And he's like, I mean, I guess, but like, anyways, my point still stands. Your opinion's your opinion, hers is hers. Okay, now go now. Like, that's literally what he was on. And yeah, so Uche keeps trying. No, because, you know, did I ever badmouth her to you? I didn't. But now I'm telling you, which, by the way, only proves the opposite of what you're trying to prove. Because it's like, you let me fully get engaged to this person, knowing everything you're apparently telling me now. Let me fall in love with her. Let me get engaged to her. Even after you could have told me, because you told Aaliyah now. But now you want to be my friend and tell me the truth. I'm side-eyeing you. I'm like, what is his motive? Right? Let's think about that. Because even if he didn't want to tell Aaliyah the whole truth, he's omitting from Aaliyah, he could tell Milton everything. If that's his boy. I'm looking out for my friend. Because that's what these guys love to say when they want to trash a woman. Izzy, I'm looking at you. Milton walks away, and to add insult to injury, he's like, yeah, I'll write you in the group chat. In other words, I don't want to talk to you. Now we move on to Izzy trying to save Chris, because that's his friend, and he just had to save him from his girlfriend, Johnny. So yeah, after he rips into Johnny, he decides to go to Chris and try to get Chris to leave her, I guess. That's where I'm confused, because he's like, I'm not here to like end your relationship or like trash talk your girl, but that's exactly what I'm gonna do. Like, huh? So yeah, so Chris is like, oh, why are you telling her I think she's a shit person? And he's like, well, I didn't tell her that. I told her I thought that. I told her I thought it was sketchy what she did to you. Izzy, Chris is aware. Like, this is why I'm like, this whole like helping my friend thing is bull, because your friend already has all this info. You're not giving him new information. You're not giving him new information. Like, he already knew that she said something different to you and to him. We all saw you talk about it. It's not new information. So for you to be out here like, I have to tell him and I have to save him, there's nothing to save. He had that information and still made his decision. Leave him alone, leave her alone. Oh my goodness. So Stacy walks in talking about, ooh, I thought I was walking away from the drama. Girl, you want the drama. You all up in the drama. Anywho. So she's in there trying to defend Izzy because Chris is defending Johnny. Then Johnny comes in and she's like, it's all lies. And you're like, oh, Johnny, that's not the way to prove it's lies. You don't even know what they were saying. But it's lies. Girl. But I mean, I get it. You know, she's assuming that they're talking shit. So she's just like, why are you ganging up on him? Da, 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 da. So they're going back and forth. She's like, I think you're a shit person. She's like, ask anyone. I'm not. She's like, I did. And my opinion still stands. And you're like, no, you didn't, girl. You didn't talk to nobody. They're basically upset that Johnny was talking ish, which I completely understand being upset about that. Problem is, that's not what you guys are addressing. Izzy didn't sit down with her and say, why did you say XYZ about me after the fact? Like, it was hurtful, felt kind of messed up. Stacy didn't say, hey, I was crying for you. Like, why did you speak negatively about me? She was like, yeah, she said she was crying for her, but then she was like, and that's why you're a person. It's like, that's not productive. Like, just leave it alone. If you don't care to, like, mend the relationship, what's the point of all of this? If you did want to address Johnny, it should have been based on these things that you're telling us now. But, you know, like, oh, it was shady because she was talking about us. So address that. Like, why are you addressing things you guys have already spoken about? Izzy and Stacy. They go home, and when we can see that this man is drunk as a skunk, they decide to have this conversation. They continue to talk about the Johnny and Chris of it all, and you know, I'm just looking out for my friend, and she's saying, well, we're all thinking, like, who cares? He was there defending her, but you know, and he's still trying to explain, it's just my friend, it has nothing to do with Johnny, and she's like, you're not realizing the sensitivity of it being Johnny, the person you were going to choose over me. And he's like, oh, she's just a pod girl. She's like, I was just a pod girl, which, thank you. Like, sir, why are you trying to downplay this? Like, she was higher than Stacy. And now you're like, she's nothing. They're kind of back and forth with that. Then oh my God, listen. Never in the history of womandom, okay, has any woman ever found it attractive for you to say, I thought it so attractive that you were ripping into my ex? It was so hot. She basically tells him, like, that's gross. That pisses me off even more. I'm not interested to hear you say that. She's essentially like, I want this passion day to day, and not when you see your ex and see how shitty she is and compare the two. And that's why you think I'm so wonderful and, you know, so great. Like, I want that every day. You haven't cooked for me. You haven't done any of the things you said you'd do for me in the pods. And I feel like a lot of men have that sentiment of like, because he was like, I just bought you flowers. Like, it's Flower Monday. What the heck? You know, like, I've cleaned up sometimes. Come on. You know, like, you're not even acknowledging the stuff I did do. It's like, she is. She didn't say you didn't do anything. She said you're not doing enough. So either you're okay with that and can agree and do more, or, I don't know, leave because you don't want to do more. I don't know what to tell you. Or tell her, I'm not doing more than I'm already doing. Izzy walks away crying. He was drunk, y'all. He was drunk as hell. This was not the time to have this conversation. So he walks away drunk, whatever. It leaves at that. We are at what appears to be the next day. Stacy, of course, how did we not see it coming that she's one of the, like, fitness instructors that be talking about micro and stuff. The Pilates instructors. He shows up with a bag, with a plunger, and a cook for me coupon or some shit. I don't fucking know. She's like, oh my God, best gift ever. What the fuck is wrong with you? I'm sorry. No. It's the bar in hell. It is a little bit. It is. I don't know. It was very like, I asked for this, you gave it to me, right? So there's not really much genuineness there to me, but that's just my opinion. That's just how I feel about it. I think what should have happened was just a really open and honest conversation, and moving forward, he can plan things like that. But their conversation, at least, again, we remember editing. Things could have been left out. The conversation could have been longer, more fulfilling. But what we're seeing is him being like, this is how I felt. Her being like, this is how I felt. And then they're like, well, I love you. And it's like, but there was no solution because you're both feeling in ways that conflict with each other. And it wasn't like they were like, okay, so this is what we'll do to meet, or this is what we'll do to compromise, or this is how I'll meet you halfway. There was literally just like, I feel this, love you. And it was like, but you still feel that way. What was the resolution? We meet Izzy's mom. It goes well. Only thing I will say is we are getting a lot of, because Izzy mentioned to her, like, oh, my mom's scared I'll hurt you. The mom seems to kind of mention the same sentiment. And you're kind of sitting there like, why? What's going on? Like, what are we concerned about here? Because if I was Stacy, I'd be like, I'm concerned. Why you and your mom keep talking about how you gonna hurt me? Like, what's going on, sir? What is this? What's happening? And then Lydia meets Milton's family, and baby, that girl is like in the Inquisition. I don't even know if that's appropriate. Is that right? I don't even know what the Inquisition is. Don't come for me. But yeah, she's in court, baby. She's in court, and she's fighting for her life here, okay? His mom and sister are like on her ass. Like, what the fuck you want with a 24-year-old? Have you ever dated before? Like, they're coming at her. But it seems to have gone fairly well. You know, Lydia handled herself well, made it clear that she loves him. blah, blah, blah. This man, him pulling that wine cork while they probably looking at her like, that's your man's. That's your man's over there. Okay. All right. We have wedding dress shopping and tux shopping. Now, what cracks me up, I can't remember if I mentioned this in the last video or in the beginning of this, but turns out Renee and, what was his name? Justin? Wow, I forgot his name. Fishing guy. Turns out they got engaged, went to the honeymoon, like made it all the way to the wedding dress, everything. And they just weren't shown. They cracked me up in the beginning of this episode when they're introducing who Lydia brought. They go to Renee, and then Lydia's like, Renee. So another soundbite moment where they must have used her saying her name at some other point in the show. Dress shopping, tuxedo shopping, pretty boring this season. There weren't too many like deep convos or like friends trying to convince you otherwise. So that was interesting. But we did see Izzy's mom hanging with the guys, you know, giving them a little, the wife is always right, you know, reading. It was cute. She was just hanging with the boys. It was adorable. Izzy takes Stacy on a first class love date. Takes her on a helicopter ride, and then like they eat like around the first class planes. I can't remember what that was. Anyways, okay, again, my opinion. We all got him. But I'm of the opinion that Stacy's gonna get tired of being like, Izzy, I want this, and Izzy, I need that. And that's just my thought process, because that moment where she's like, oh, like, what did she say? Like, what are we gonna dance to? And they're like, she's like picking, you know, random, like silly songs, just being funny. And then she's like, oh, like, Izzy and Stacy, announce us. And he's like, like, you're gonna get tired of being like, you know, do this, do that. Now this is what I want next. Like, this is how I want you to be with me. You know, like, that's gonna get exhausting. But that's just my opinion. We get a scene of Milton eating with his sister. I personally don't have too much to say about this scene because it just felt like the dinner with his family. You know, she's like, are you sure? What are you doing? We are on basically our last two scenes now for episode 9, the conflict. Like I said, it goes in order, okay? We've got conflict right before the wedding. Izzy, let me get Milton and Lydia out of the way. Milton and Lydia are at dinner. Milton mentions like, yeah, you're not exactly how you were in the pods because of the conversation they were having. She's like, what do you mean? And he's like, well, you wake up angry sometimes for no reason. And she's like, you give me a reason. He's like, how could I? You just woke up. And basically she's like, you left this out and that out and blah, blah, blah. And I don't know. I feel like sometimes we need to just like you're having the same argument over and over when it's clear what's going on and like that you need to make a decision, that it's up to you. Either you're gonna be okay with the possibility that it may not change, or that if it does, it'll be in small ways, or like you leave, or you say, I'm not putting up with this. Either you fix it or I'm gone type of thing. You know, like there's a decision to be made rather than to continue having the same argument for the rest of your life. And that does not apply to everything. There are circumstances, it's situational. Come on, guys. We all know this. I feel like we're all adults. I don't think we need to preface things with like situational. Obviously, it doesn't apply to every situation. They start arguing about that. Then they end up back on how she handled the situation with Uche. She's like, I'm emotional. Like, that was a lot for me. Like, I don't understand how you don't understand. And he's kind of like, I get that, but like, you don't have to give someone all your like mental energy, emotional energy. Like, you could have just left. That was an option. And she's like, I left twice. He's like, no, like if you leave, you don't go back. Like, there's no leaving twice. You just leave. Which, valid. She gets up and walks away. As I've heard said, I think when people do that, they want you to follow. He didn't follow. He just kept eating. And obviously she had to walk back looking a little bit silly, if I do say so myself. Similar to the situation I mentioned with Izzy and Stacy earlier, there's no resolution. They're just like, this is how I feel. This is how I feel. Love you. And you're like, okay. So I don't know if there was a resolution and it was just edited without it. But if it was, great. If not, y'all need to work on that. Both couples. Backwards a little bit to Stacy and Izzy, because this I wanted to end with. I wanted to end with this, okay? They are talking about Izzy's financial state. So from what I gather, they were at a gas station. Izzy said, hey, get the gas? Or like, either she was asking him to get the gas and he said, oh, I don't have cash or something. Or she was like, hey, use your credit card like to get gas. Because she was like, you know, I use my credit card, you get points, blah, 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 all that. And that's when he says like, oh, I don't have credit cards. And so she's basically like, we've had this conversation before. You never mentioned that. Like, so I kind of feel like you lied. He's like, what do you mean I lied? And da, 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 da. And then basically he's like, oh, like, I wanted to formally have the conversation, you know, like I didn't, like in the pods at the gas station, like it just didn't feel, you know, I wanted to sit down face to face and talk because it's something that's so serious. Like blowing smoke up people's booties again. And she's kind of like, I feel like you just kind of ramble on and like skirt around the issue. And he's like, yeah, I do ramble, but like, I'm not skirting around the issue, but you are. And I don't know why Izzy wasn't, I mean, Stacy wasn't like, dude, just freaking say what you're trying to say. Because like, okay, fine. You wanted to sit down and have a serious conversation, face to face, a formal conversation as he calls it. Okay, so here we are, sitting down. Let's have a formal conversation. What formally did you want to say about this? Oh, nothing different from what you've already said? Like, what? Like, dude, first of all, in the pods is where you should have said it. I have bad credit. I have XYZ. Why didn't he say it? Because he knew that that would probably turn her away or other women away. I think he felt comfortable saying it to Johnny, though, because as much as we want to trash Johnny, she was right about that man's financial state. She was very much correct. What I think happened is he wanted to wait until she was in love with him. Then he wanted to drop that because, you know, the person would then have compassion for you, would understand where you're coming from. But that's not fair to anyone because, sure, for some people, financial states are not a deal breaker. For some people, they very much are. You know, some people are just like, no, I'm already in a specific place in my life and I'm not interested in going back to help you fix or going back to get you to here. You have the conversation and she ends up just like sitting on his lap and they kind of like she never really gets an answer from him or like gets like he never realizes that it was messed up. He's just like, I don't feel like I lied to you. I feel like we had to have like the formal conversation. I wasn't trying to hide it from you. Like, that's not what I was doing. And so like, it's just not. And it's like, but it was, you were like, why are we acting? Oh, he's like, oh no, it just wasn't a convenient time. Like, yes, it was like at the gas station when she said, why don't you have credit cards? Or like, whatever, that was the time for you to explain, formal conversation or not. That was the time to be like, this is what's going on, you know, like, because he mentioned having like $3,500 of debt, and I think he said he paid it off, but like his credit is still bad. For this show, I think they need to pick people who are in stable places in their lives, because that is a lot to put people through. Like, if they choose to get married, their first few years are going to be hard. Like, there's going to be tough conversations. They're going to be dealing with his financial state to get him to a point where he can do the things she wants them to do together, that he says he wants to, which, again, like I said, it doesn't really seem like it, because his stance on like the plastic plates and utensils argument, he's very much like, I'm not enough for you, like you look down on me, you're materialistic, tells me that he doesn't want to get to her level like he's saying he does. Not her level, but like to the place that she's at, like he says he does, of like having money and being able to travel and do the expensive things when they travel, luxury traveling. He doesn't really seem to care about that, which is fine. Once again, everybody's allowed their own things, but I'm not sure why he's pretending that that's the thing for them. But anyways, that's how the episode ends, with those two arguments, and we're looking forward to the wedding and the upcoming. They try to make it look like drama. Stacy's crying. Lydia's like, oh, what am I doing wrong or something? And I'm getting sound bites to give us drama. I don't know. Thoughts on who's getting married? I feel like Milton and Lydia are going to say yes. They make sense to me. Like, yeah, he's a little bit young, so she's going to have some patience and like life steps and moving forward, because he's probably going to need a little bit more time than she does. And then Izzy and Stacy, I pray to God they say no. I'm 50-50. I don't know if they're going to say yes or no, honestly, but I pray that they know. Or that she does it, at least. I hope you enjoyed. Like the video if you did. Comment your thoughts down below. I love to hear it, and go back and forth on it. Subscribe for more content like this, and I will catch you in the next one. Bye!